Welcome, everyone. My name is Ali Young, and I work with Oklahoma State University. I am based here in Fort Worth, Texas, and I will let both of my colleagues introduce themselves here in just a minute. I am the moderator today, so when you guys registered and you listed some of the questions, we'll be asking those of our panelists today. As you have any additional questions, please feel free to drop those into the chat. I will definitely be monitoring that, and then I can pass that off to Tony and Cecilia. Just as a reminder, this is the online resources panel. So we'll be talking about utilizing online resources in the midst of everything. Everyone that you'll hear from today is based here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We have about 80 universities that all have a full-time staff member here in DFW. And so at the very end, we'll drop in some contact information for everyone else. So now I will go on ahead and turn it over to my colleagues and let them introduce themselves and let you know what university they work for.
Hello, thanks, Ali. My name is Cecilia Granzin. I'm a senior regional admissions counselor for Highpoint University, located in Highpoint, North Carolina. Highpoint provides 4 different components to our students' education. The first being a very student-focused learning environment. We strive to give all of our students an extraordinary education with prestigious faculty members, one-on-one interaction and attention with all professors, so no TAs or GAs. And then we are offering a free master's degree in business leadership and communication for all of our fall 2021 students. The second component is experiential learning. 25% of a Highpoint student time is spent as experiential hands-on learning. So that could be study abroad, research, internships. That third component is a values-based education. We want all of our graduates not only to be successful professionals, but to be good people, to really use their Highpoint education to go out and better their community or go out and better the world. And that fourth component, we are known as the premier life skills university. So we are weaving and teaching life skills into every aspect of a Highpoint education. So these include motivation, coachability, emotional intelligence, a positive growth mindset. So we really strive to give all of our students an extraordinary education and an inspiring environment with caring people. And I did completely skip over our size. I do want to let you know that we're about 4,600 undergrad students. And that is all for me. To you, Tony.
All right, thank you, Cecilia. Hi, everybody. My name is Tony Chandler, and I am your admission counselor at Bradley University, which is located in Peoria, Illinois. So rough geography lesson. Here's Chicago. Here's St. Louis, here's Peoria. And if you go over the other direction, you're in Indianapolis. So if that kind of gives you a good triangulation of where Peoria is located in central Illinois. Bradley is a really unique school. Our size is unique. We have about 6,000 students, which is technically a medium-sized school, although by Texas standards, that probably seems like a smaller size, but technically we are medium. And we have a lot of elements that a much larger school would have. So lots of majors, about 185 things you can study at Bradley, 200 clubs and organizations, tons of internships, study abroad, involvement. And Peoria itself offers a lot of great aspects like concerts and Broadway musicals and you name it. It's a great city to be a college student. But then we also kind of take those elements that make a really small school special. Smaller classes, average class is about 18 at Bradley. All professor taught, so 100%, just like Highpoint, are taught by professors. And we know our students. You know, at 6,000 students, you can do that. And we know what they want to accomplish. I always encourage my freshmen, you know, go to your professor, tell them, you know, what you want to do while you're there, and let's make a plan and make it happen. And I think that's why Bradley guarantees 2 real-world experiences for every single one of our graduates, whether that's an internship or study abroad or leadership or conference conferences, you name it, we can make it happen for you. So I will stop talking about Bradley now because we've got so much great information to talk about with the online resources, but I will also put my information in the chat should y'all have more questions.
Great, thanks ladies. Well, we will just go on ahead and kick it off. If y'all can talk to us a little bit about what is the benefit of using online resources to connect with colleges and universities, and then what are some of those best practices, or how can you get the most out of those online resources?
I'll go ahead and kind of kick it off with some of the benefits. Flexibility to me is the greatest benefit. Typically, before when we were traveling, I would spend 2 weeks in Houston, maybe a week in Austin, connecting with students, and that was really the only time or only opportunity that I had to talk with you face to face. But now the flexibility I have meetings with students in Houston, and an hour later, I'll have a meeting with a student in Austin, and an hour later here in the DFW area. So being able to virtually meet with students at any point of the day, wherever y'all are, is a huge benefit, and even after 5 o'clock. And I also think that a huge benefit is the flexibility, and then also the virtual options are so much more advanced and well-rounded now that we are in this COVID era. We've really had to adapt and pivot. There's a lot of different options out there. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Tony.
Well, I think particularly like Cecilia and I are kind of in the same boat in that we are schools that you cannot just, jog down to on a Saturday afternoon, but we have, I've seen this across the board, not just at Bradley or Highpoint, but really everybody has adapted their websites, adapted even their actions like Zoom and phone calls and everything else, website to really allow you to get out of it what you need, whether it's talking to a professor or taking a virtual campus tour or scheduling a time to talk to a current student at the university. So, I think just going and kind of digging on the websites of the schools that you're interested in, and maybe those schools that you're like, well, I would have been interested in them, but I don't know how I would have gone to visit during the fall. Well, now you can, and the resources are definitely there for you to do that.
And Tony, you just made me think of another thought here. That demonstrated interest piece, a lot of universities who do a holistic review of all of their applicants' demonstrated interest, meaning what type of interest have you had in our university? And a lot of times that means a university campus visit. We're using those online resources such as meeting with your counselor one-on-one or attending a virtual information session or virtual tour. We're using that as your demonstrated interest piece now. So utilizing these virtual options are really to your benefit.
Great, thank you both. What are the steps or criteria to begin searching for colleges? And once you start that big search process, how do you narrow it down, both in terms of universities and then maybe some majors that you might be considering?
I'll start that one off. One of my favorite tools is Big Future, which is part of College Board. And Big Future is basically like Match.com for colleges and you. So you go in and you put in the criteria that matter to you, and you can make it very, very specific, or you can make it pretty broad. And I kind of suggest you start off a little broader and see what pops up, and then you can kind of narrow in. But it will tell you the schools that meet your criteria. And My youngest daughter actually used Big Future. I think it was the one piece of advice she took from me in her college search. No, I'm kidding. But she went in there. She's got a very unusual major, not commonly found, and it's not anywhere here in Texas. So Big Future actually popped up a school that we were like, I had no idea that major was at that school, and that's where she goes now. So I've seen it at work. It really is amazing. You'll be amazed at the schools that are a good match for you. And, you know, it may be in California, it may be in New Jersey, it may be Illinois or North Carolina. You just never know, you know, but definitely check out Big Future. It's a great tool. And I know Cecilia's got one that she really likes.
Yeah, so I know a lot of schools utilize Naviance as well. Naviance does have some really good search features, just like Tony was saying with Big Future. You can kind of put in those macro level, such as size, and state, out of state, major, and kind of start narrowing down from there. But there are, I think I looked up the number the other day, like over 4,200 universities and colleges in the nation right now. So there's a lot to pick from, and a lot of us are very similar in size and what we offer as far as academics, clubs, and organizations. So I completely understand the stress that you go through as a student trying to make that choice. I mean, there's a lot of stress behind that. You shouldn't hide from it. But really taking a minute to do, probably a little bit more than a minute, some self-reflection of what you value out of your education. So obviously what your major is going to be, or if you're not sure if the university has a good undeclared program or pathway, what you value as far as your relationships. Do you want a really tight community feel, religious affiliation? Trying to get a sense of how you succeed best and what type of environment do you succeed best. And that can kind of help start narrowing down some of those choices. And again, utilizing those online resources, such as reaching out to a faculty member to have a deeper conversation about their academic program, talking to a current student, get their perspective. Those current students will tell you the good and the bad of the university. Most of them aren't getting paid. They're just there because they love the university, but they also want to give you an honest perspective. So if that's kind of what we're here for as admissions counselors, is to give you those resources to help you narrow down those choices and make the best choice for you.
Thank you both. Roughly how many universities should a student apply to during the college process?
I generally recommend, like, you're doing your research, think of it kind of like a funnel. I mean, and that's how we term it in the admissions world, is the admissions funnel. So you're doing research and you kind of narrow down the ones that really check a lot of boxes for you. In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, I think no more than 6 to 8, because just the sheer volume of information that you're dealing with from 6 to 8 schools, 6 to 8 deadlines, 6 to 8 FAFSAs, 6 to 8, you know, everything. I think is plenty. And, you know, hopefully if you did your research properly, you've got some strong contenders. I know students that apply to as few as 4 or 5. You know, they've really honed in on what they need and want. But you know, if a student's applying to like 12 schools, I can imagine that something's going to get lost in translation in their process.
Yeah, I completely agree with Tony. I usually say no more than 7 or 8 because that's a lot of application fees. That's a lot to keep up with. And at that point, are you truly interested in university number 7 on your list? Because you may be taking a spot from someone that is truly interested and it's number 1 on their list. I've had students apply to 1 university, and I've had students say, oh, I've applied to 30, which is a little bit on the deep end. But as admissions counselors, we also recognize that this year specifically, students are going to be applying to more universities than normal because of the fluidity of COVID. They need backup plans for case A, B, C, D, and E. So we realize that you probably will be applying to more universities this year than you probably typically would in the past. But still, I would really try to keep that number under 10.
Thank you. That is great advice. When should students begin visiting universities, whether that's in person or virtually?
In a normal time, normal, I would have said, anywhere from summer between your sophomore and junior year to, fall of your senior year. Being a school that, most of my students, at best are, 5 hours away. I totally understand it when my seniors are like, I'm coming for Columbus Day, or I'm coming for, over Thanksgiving break or something like that. Now you guys have the best information literally at your fingertips, on your laptop, on your phone. So you could start as soon as you want, to take advantage of those virtual tours. It's not exactly the same, but at least it can give you a feel, is that a school that I want to make the time of, investment of going there to visit? From what I saw on the video, are these the kind of people I want to hang out with for 4 years? And I think you can glean that somewhat from the online tours. But Cecilia, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Now is definitely the best time to both be in-person and virtual tours. Some advice I actually got from other admissions counselors that I really like to pass on is it might not be feasible to travel all the way to North Carolina for a visit right now, but you can maybe find a university that is closer to you here in Texas that is possibly the same size and maybe the same atmosphere, and tour that university to see, okay, maybe this is a good size for me, so I'm going to keep Highpoint or Bradley into the mix, or this is way too small, I feel claustrophobic, whatever it is. But yeah, now would definitely be the time to start virtually visiting or actually taking those campus visits. And something that just popped to mind, social media takeovers. A lot of our universities are doing some type of social media takeover, whether it's a campus tour or taking over like the residence halls, show you different residence halls. So if you have universities that you're thinking about kind of in mind, go to their Instagram pages, go to their Facebook. I'm not really sure if that's still a thing anymore for y'all, but Facebook pages, Snapchat, whatever that is, and look for those takeovers. That's a really good way to get personal insight into those universities. And most of those takeovers are from current students. So they give some really good advice.
Perfect. And that segues into the next question that we just got. How can you get a feel for a school when you're just looking at the promotional videos or things online?
Honestly, I think you can glean facts, figures, maybe what they're about, but you don't really know until you start talking to people, whether it's talking to the admissions counselor, talking to current students, talking to professors. That's where you're really gonna, understand the day-to-day vibe of that campus and what they're really about. Our promotional materials, it's like anything. We're trying to put our best foot forward. We're trying to give you the most information with the least amount of words. But sometimes those videos are, I know a lot of our videos are students talking, and I love that, but I'd rather hear from our students than hear from me any old day. Even if a school doesn't offer it on their website, ask, just say, is there any way I could talk to a student from Texas? Is there any way I can talk to a nursing major? We're here to help you and be your advocate. So if it's not something we normally offer, we may be able, yeah, I know a nursing major from Dallas, and I'll connect y'all and she can give you the skinny on what it's like. So don't be afraid to ask for those special things, even if they're not normally offered. So.
Yeah, I absolutely back up what Tony was saying. Ask if you can connect with a current student from your area. We have plenty of students from all around Texas and the DFW area that we'd be more than happy to connect you with. So you have someone that is similar to you geographically, possibly moving very far away, so they can give a personal firsthand experience to help you with that. So yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, if there's something on your mind and you're trying to figure out, ask us. Yes, we're going to give you the honest answer as your admissions counselor. I am here to counsel you. I am not here to sell you on something that is not a good fit for you. So don't think we're just salespeople just trying to throw you into a university. No, I'm trying to find the best fit for you. And if Highpoint's not it, I'm going to tell you.
Thanks. I think that is great information, Cecilia. And I think that's true for all of the admissions counselors that are based here in DFW. So please reach out to any admissions counselors for universities that you might be considering. The next question that we have is, what are some things that students should consider when they're looking for the right fit? What are some qualities or things that students should be looking at for different universities?
Okay. I think every student is different and your priorities are different. And sometimes you don't. I know when I was 17 or 18, there were things that were on my radar and things that were not on my radar, but later in life became important to me, or later through my college career became important to me. I think some of the common ones, clearly, and Cecilia referenced this, is the major. If they don't have your major, you may want to move along. Or if you're undecided, do they have a way to help you decide on a major? And is there enough selection there that you would end up staying at that school? Like, as you look at the list of majors, you're like, well, I'm kind of interested in psychology, but I also like marketing and I also like sociology. Do they have all of those? Yes. Okay. So when I pick from one of those three, it's there. So that's important. But, other students, they want, maybe size really matters to them. Maybe activities really matter to them. Maybe distance, being from Texas, people always laugh. They're like, do students really want to leave Texas? And I'm like, yeah, it's a big world out there. We're not going to fall in the Gulf of Mexico while you're gone, so you can always come back. They'll in the state when you're done. But, sometimes it's about diversity. Sometimes it's about proximity to, like, I have a lot of students that I work with that are like, well, I have family in Chicago, or I have family in St. Louis. And so it's kind of like the great way to be away, but you still have family fairly close by should you want them or need them. So everybody's a little different. I think Cecilia talked a little bit about self-reflection, and I think that's, a really good place to start. Like, what really matters to me and what is not so much, a deal breaker for me. But Cecilia, give your thoughts for sure.
I think you covered just about anything. I think other important things to think about is if you need a specialized program such as accommodations, does that university provide an accommodations office or an accommodations specialist that you can go to? Some of those micro things that you wouldn't think that you just don't think of when you're in high school that really support you, those resources that help you succeed. You want to be able to continue that into college, because taking away that piece can sometimes be detrimental. I mean, even little things like clubs and organizations, like you love Beyonce, you want a Beyonce club, like that's what I'm looking for in a university. That's okay, cool. There's plenty of universities that have a Beyonce club.
Thank you. And that actually segues into the next question that just came in. What is some advice that you would have for students and parents as they navigate the college admissions process in a normal year as well as in the midst of this crazy year?
Okay, well, I guess I'll start us off again. You know, I think for parents, and I do a whole panel on, parents in the college process because, it's different than, it was in 19 when I, went to school. So what's changed? But I think the number one thing is students and parents. Students, you've got to drive that bus. You've got to hop in the driver's seat and drive that bus, not over your parents, but with your parents along for the ride, and parents, this is your first adult decision, right? This is your entree into adulthood. And so have those conversations. Don't make mom and dad call the admissions counselor because you're afraid of us. We're actually really nice people. But you do it. You send the email or the text or whatever you're comfortable with. We'll meet you in your comfort level. But, you make sure the transcript got there. You make sure you're scheduled for the tour. I think that's really important. And I guess I was that mean mom. And even though professionally I could have done it in my sleep, I made my daughters, drive their own bus because it's their decision. It's their experience. It's not mine. I've had mine, but I think that's super important that the family kind of gets on the same page about, going forward. So.
Yeah, I think that is really great advice. I think in a typical year, and I guess this COVID era, communication is really key. So communicating with your parents, communicating with your student, communicating with your counselor, what your thoughts are, what your concerns are. That's what we're here to do. And I'm going to sound like broken record, utilizing those online resources to help you figure out where you want to go, what you want to do. But yeah, communication is key throughout that whole process. And then making sure that you are still meeting those deadlines, because I don't know if you've seen those memes that are like March and you blink and it's September. It's coming up fast. A lot of universities still have November 1st deadlines. And a lot of schools are scrambling right now to open, and minds are different places. So make sure that you have all your ducks in a row and that you're very organized, because again, those deadlines a lot of times are not flexible. They are hard deadlines. We can't accept a transcript November 2nd. So just being organized and communicating.
Great, thank you. Can you guys talk a little bit about, is it true that private schools and out-of-state schools typically are more expensive and don't have scholarships?
Okay, I'll start this one off. I'll tell you a little story, not even related. If y'all ever meet my daughters, just pretend like you don't know any of this stuff about them. Okay, so one of my daughters went to school here in Texas, and the one that was on Big Future, landed out of state in a neighboring state. We actually pay less for younger daughter to be out of state at a state school than we paid for older daughter to be here in Texas. Why? Because, academically, they were a little different. Students, they both graduated from the same high school, but just academically, their strengths were a little different. And the out-of-state school that youngest one chose to go to, I mean, they did everything besides pull the U-Haul up to the front of our house and come and pack her stuff. I mean, they just really wanted her there. Her major is a smaller one, but it's very competitive. And so they were willing to, you know, and they've given her scholarships all 4 years. We're pretty excited about that. But the thing I tell people about the money is always the last thing that kind of falls into place. And as you're looking at schools, and Cecilia and I both work at private schools, and Allie works at an out-of-state school, if you stopped at the sticker price, you're very much options. You have got to let the process play out in terms of scholarships, financial assistance, filing that FAFSA, and then decide what's doable and what's not. You know, I have parents every year, and it's like makes my heart just skip a beat when they're just like, we really didn't think that a private school was going to be possible, and it totally is, and we can't believe it. So let that process work. You may be very, very surprised, pleasantly surprised at what you guys as students can accomplish, along with your admission counselor being your best advocate and steering you towards little hidden gems of money. So yeah.
Yeah, Tony's exactly right. Don't not look at a university just because it's A, out of state, B, private, or C, out of state and private. There's a lot of different resources that we can pull on to help make the education more affordable. But also maybe playing the devil's advocate here. When you're paying for an education, you're doing an investment. So think about, I mean, if it's a couple $1,000s difference, what's the investment in that couple $1,000s? Are you going to a very, very, very large university and possibly not getting the individualized attention that you're getting at a smaller, more individualized university? So you have to consider both hands there. What's your investment for the extra money that you're paying possibly at a private university?
Perfect. Thank you, ladies, so much. I think that's most of the questions that have come into the chat box. And I just dropped in a link. The biggest takeaway for everyone today is that the internet is a big and overwhelming place. You have a point of contact at each university. So please utilize your admissions counselors, whether that's Cecilia, Tony, myself, or anyone else at another university. Like Cecilia said, we want to help you find the right fit. And if that's not our institution, we want to help connect you with someone else that can help you. So definitely go on ahead and you can go to texasdarn.com, and that will have a list of resources, including our membership directory. And we also have a COVID directory. So as students or as universities change their policies and become test optional for admissions or for scholarships, all of that information is being updated there. So when in doubt, just reach out to the university directly. But texasdarn.com is going to be a great place that houses all of those resources in one place. Tony and Cecilia, do y'all have any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
Go ahead, Cecilia.
Oh, so sorry. Just thank you all for tuning in today. Like Ali was saying, the internet is a big, scary place, but we try to make it as easy as possible. And I really do wish each and every one of y'all the best this fall.
Absolutely. Thank you all for making the investment in yourselves to be here today and kind of hear some thoughts on this. My ask of you is check your email, listen to your voicemail, and that's every admissions counselor's dream when a student does that. And if there is anything we can do as Darn to help you, I hope you'll reach out and let all of us know. We're here to support you and make this process the absolute best it can be, no matter what the circumstances are.
Perfect. Thank you both so much. And thank you to everyone who joined. We appreciate it and hope you'll enjoy the rest of your afternoon.